The city screamed at me that morning, car horns blaring, concrete suffocating every inch of green, and my neighbor's laughter cutting sharper than any blade. "You call that a garden, Lena?" sneered Mrs. Carver from her balcony, her voice dripping with disdain as she eyed my cluster of potted herbs teetering on my tiny fire escape. I was 40, stubborn, and clinging to a dream nobody else could see. My hands trembled as I watered my basil, the leaves drooping under the weight of the city's smog. I wasn't just fighting for plants. I was fighting for a piece of myself, a whisper of the farm girl I'd been before Chicago's skyline swallowed me whole. My husband, David, believed in me, but even he couldn't silence the doubts that crept in at night, doubts fueled by years of mockery from neighbors who saw my pots as a pathetic rebellion against urban life. I'd grown up on a Nebraska farm, where the earth smelled of possibility, and my mother taught me to coax life from even the driest soil. But in Chicago, where I'd moved for David's engineering job, my garden was a joke. 6 pots, a few tomato seedlings, and a rickety trellis I'd scavenged from a dumpster. The Carvers, the Hendersons, even the kids downstairs, they all laughed. "You're wasting your time," they'd say. "You can't grow anything here." But I wasn't just growing herbs. I was growing hope. David, with his steady hands and quiet faith, built me a small irrigation system from spare parts. Our daughter, Mia, 16 and full of fire, sketched designs for vertical planters, dreaming of a rooftop jungle. "We'll show them, Mom," she'd say, her eyes sparkling with defiance. I wanted to believe her, but the city's weight pressed hard. One evening, as the sun dipped below the skyline, I caught Mr. Henderson tossing a cigarette butt into my sage. "Oops," he smirked. "Didn't see your little weed patch there." Rage surged, but I swallowed it. I had to. My garden wasn't just for Mike, it was for Mia, for David, for the memory of my mother's hands in the dirt. I wouldn't let their cruelty kill it. That night, I couldn't sleep. The city's pulse throbbed through our thin walls, and I lay awake, staring at Mia's sketches. Vertical farms, towers of green reaching for the sky. Crazy, maybe, but I'd read about urban agriculture experiments in Singapore, prototypes in Japan. Why not here? Why not me? By dawn, I'd made a decision. I'd turn their mockery into fuel. I started small, researching hydroponics and vertical systems on a library computer. David sold his old motorcycle to buy LED grow lights. Mia spent her weekends coding a simple app to track soil moisture. We were a team, scrappy and determined, but the neighbors' taunts grew louder. "You're delusional," Mrs. Carver called from her window. "You'll never feed anyone with that nonsense." I ignored her, but the words stung. Doubt was a weed, creeping into my resolve. Then came the eviction notice. Our landlord, a greasy man named Vickers, wanted our apartment for a higher-paying tenant. "Your plants are a fire hazard," he claimed, though I knew it was a lie. We had 30 days to leave or fight. David's jaw clenched as he read the notice. "We're not going anywhere," he said. Mia, tears in her eyes, hugged me tight. "They can't take this from us, Mom." I nodded, but inside, I was breaking. My garden was tiny, insignificant. Maybe they were right. Maybe I was a fool. But then I remembered my mother's voice. The smallest seed can crack a stone. I wasn't done yet. I'd fight for my family, for my dream, for every person who'd ever been told their vision was too small. The city might mock me, but I'd make it listen. The eviction notice hung over us like a storm cloud, but I refused to let it drown us. I spent nights poring over urban farming journals, sketching designs for a vertical system that could fit our cramped rooftop. David, ever practical, calculated load-bearing capacities, ensuring our dream wouldn't collapse under its own weight. Mia threw herself into the fight, too. She posted about our garden on social media, Her photos of our scrappy pots gaining a small but loyal following. "Look at this," she'd say, showing me comments from strangers who saw hope in our herbs. But the neighbors were relentless. "You're clogging the fire escape," Vickers snapped during an inspection, ignoring the fact that his own negligence leaky pipes. Broken elevators was the real hazard. I reached out to a local urban farming group, Green City Innovate, hoping for support. Their leader, Dr. Elena Ruiz, a botanist with a firebrand streak, met me on our rooftop. She studied my pots, my sketches, and Mia's app. "This is raw, but it's got potential," she said. "You're thinking bigger than this city's ready for." Her words lit a spark in me, but potential wouldn't pay the rent. Dr. Ruiz invited us to a community pitch night, where local innovators could present ideas for funding. I hesitated. Public speaking wasn't my strength, but Mia pushed me. "Mom, you've got this. Show them what we're made of." So, I wrote a pitch, a modular vertical farm. Scalable, affordable, designed to turn urban wastelands into oases. David built a prototype from recycled materials, and Mia created a sleek presentation. The night of the pitch, I stood before a room of skeptics, investors, city officials, and our neighbors, who'd shown up to scoff. My hands shook as I spoke, but I told our story: the farm girl lost in the city, the family fighting for a dream, the vision of feeding millions from rooftops. The room was silent when I finished. Then Dr. Ruiz stood, clapping slowly. "This," she said, "is the future." We won a $10,000 grant, not enough to change the world, but enough to start. Vickers, however, wasn't impressed. He doubled down, threatening legal action if we didn't clear the rooftop. "You're not farmers," he sneered. "You're squatters." I wanted to scream, but David's calm voice steadied me. "We'll fight this in court," he said. "We're not alone anymore." Green City Innovate connected us with a pro bono lawyer, Sarah Kim, who saw our case as a chance to challenge outdated zoning laws. She filed an injunction, buying us time. Meanwhile, Mia's social media posts went viral, drawing attention from local news. A reporter interviewed us, and soon, our tiny garden was a symbol of resistance against a city that prioritized profit over people. But the pressure was crushing. David worked late nights. Mia skipped school events to help, and I barely slept. The neighbors' taunts grew vicious. Someone slashed my tomato plants one night, leaving them in a heap. I cried as I swept up the wreckage, but Mia's voice cut through my despair. "They're scared, Mom. They know we're onto something." She was right. We were building more than a garden, we're building a movement. The courtroom was a battlefield, all polished wood and cold stares. Sarah Kim stood beside us, her briefcase stuffed with evidence that our garden complied with city codes. Vickers, backed by a slick corporate lawyer, painted us as reckless dreamers endangering the building. "These people think they're running a farm in the middle of Chicago," he scoffed. The judge, an older man with a skeptical frown, seemed to lean his way. But Sarah was relentless. She presented studies on urban agriculture, testimonials from Green City Innovate, and Mia's app data showing our system's efficiency. "This isn't just a garden," she argued. "It's a solution to food insecurity." The judge granted a temporary stay, but Vickers wasn't done. He rallied the neighbors, turning our building into a war zone of petty complaints, noise violations, false reports of pests. I felt the city closing in, but the grant money gave us a lifeline. We built our first vertical farm on the rooftop, a 10-foot tower of stacked planters, hydroponics humming, LED lights glowing like stars. Mia's app optimized water and nutrients, and David's engineering ensured stability. The first harvest: crisp lettuce, vibrant kale, was a miracle. We shared it with the building, hoping to win hearts. Some neighbors softened, but others, like Mrs. Carver, spat, "You're still a nuisance." The media attention grew. A national outlet picked up our story, calling us the family greening Chicago's skyline. Donations poured in, and Green City Innovate offered us a vacant lot to expand. But success bred envy. Vickers sabotaged our water line, flooding the rooftop. We spent a week repairing the damage, and I saw the toll on David, his hands calloused, his eyes tired. "Is it worth it?" he asked one night, his voice breaking. I didn't have an answer, but Mia did. She showed us a message from a single mother who'd received our kale. "My kids ate fresh greens for the first time in months. Thank you." That was enough. We pushed on, scaling the vertical farm to 20 feet, then 30. Schools invited us to speak. And Mia, now a local celebrity, inspired kids to start their own gardens. Vickers filed another lawsuit, claiming our lot violated zoning laws. Sarah countered with a petition signed by 5,000 Chicagoans supporting urban farms. The city council took notice, and a councilwoman, inspired by our story, proposed a pilot program for rooftop agriculture. We were no longer just a family with a dream, we're a spark igniting change. But the fight wasn't over. Vickers hired a private investigator to dig into our lives, hoping to discredit us. He found nothing but our stubborn hope. One night, as we harvested under the stars, David took my hand. "We're doing this, Lena. For us. For the world." I nodded, tears in my eyes, knowing the hardest battles were still ahead. The city council meeting was a circus activists chanting, developers sneering, and our family at the center of it all. Councilwoman Nguyen championed our cause, presenting our vertical farm as a model for sustainable cities. "This family," she said, pointing to us, "is feeding Chicago while others just complain." The room erupted, some cheering, others booing. Vickers sat in the back, his face a mask of fury. We won the pilot program, but it came with strict regulations, inspections, and a 6-month deadline to prove our model's viability. David threw himself into optimizing the farm, retrofitting towers with solar panels. Mia's app evolved into a platform for urban farmers citywide, earning her a scholarship offer from MIT. I coordinated with Green City Innovate to distribute our harvests to food deserts, where families lined up, grateful for fresh produce. But Vickers wasn't finished. He leaked a smear campaign, falsely claiming our farm used contaminated water. The accusation spread online, and donations slowed. I felt the weight of every eye on me, judging, doubting. One night, a brick crashed through our window with a note, "Give up, farm girl." Mia sobbed, and David's fists clenched, but I refused to break. We tested our water clean, as we knew it was, and held a press conference with Dr. Ruiz to debunk the lies. The community rallied, volunteering to guard our lot. A local chef, inspired by our story, used our greens in a viral dish, drawing crowds to our cause. Slowly, the tide turned. Schools adopted our model, and a tech startup offered to fund a second lot. Yet the personal cost was high. David's health faltered, stress, long hours, and a lingering cough he wouldn't admit worried me. Mia, juggling school and the farm, grew quiet, her spark dimming. I blamed myself. Had I pushed too far? One evening, as we sat among the towers, Mia broke the silence. "Mom, this is bigger than us now. We can't stop." Her words rekindled my fire. By the pilot's end, we'd fed 10,000 people, with data showing reduced food insecurity in 3 neighborhoods. The council voted to expand rooftop farming citywide, naming us ambassadors. Vickers, humiliated, sold the building and left. But victory felt hollow. David's cough worsened, and a doctor's visit loomed. As we stood on our rooftop, the city glittering below, I prayed our dream wouldn't cost us everything. David's diagnosis hit like a frost: lung cancer, caught early but aggressive. The doctor's words blurred as I gripped his hand. The rooftop farms hum a distant echo. We'll fight this, I whispered. But fear gnawed at me. The farm, our dream, had to wait. David was my world. Mia took charge, running the farm with volunteers while I cared for David through chemo. Her app now connected urban farmers across the Midwest, and our model spread to Detroit, Cleveland, Milwaukee. Schools taught Lena's method, and universities studied our data. But every milestone felt bittersweet without David's smile. The neighbors, once our enemies, changed. Mrs. Carver brought soup, her eyes soft with guilt. I was wrong, she admitted. Others donated to a fund for David's treatment. The city that mocked us now embraced us. But I couldn't shake the fear that I'd traded my husband's health for a dream. Mia, now 17, pushed us forward. She partnered with Green City Innovate to launch a nonprofit, Sky Harvest, to scale our model globally. A UN representative visited, stunned by our towers feeding thousands from a single lot. They offered funding to pilot our system in Nairobi, Sao Paulo, Mumbai. This is your legacy, Mom, Mia said. But I saw David's tired eyes and wondered if the cost was too high. David insisted on working, even from his hospital bed, sketching new tower designs. This isn't just for us, he said, voice hoarse. It's for every kid who's hungry. His strength carried me through sleepless nights. But the farm faced new threats: corporate developers eyeing our lots, lobbying to gut the pilot program. Sarah Kim fought back, exposing their ties to Vickers' old allies. The community rallied, with protests and petitions saving our lots. Mia's app hit 1 million downloads, and Sky Harvest secured a $5 million grant. We were changing the world, but David's health hung by a thread. As I sat by his bed, the city's lights blurring through tears, I vowed to keep fighting for him, for Mia, for the millions our dream could feed. David's remission was a miracle, fragile but real. He returned to the rooftop, weaker but determined, his hands steady as he adjusted a solar panel. We're not done yet, he said, his smile a flicker of the man I'd married. Mia, now a force in her own right, led Sky Harvest's global expansion, training farmers in Kenya and Brazil. Our model went viral literally. A documentary crew followed us, capturing the towers, the community, the lives changed. The film premiered at Sundance. And suddenly, Lena's method was a global movement. Cities from Tokyo to Lagos adopted our designs, and the UN named us a model for sustainable development. Mia, barely 18, spoke at their headquarters, her voice steady as she told our story. But success brought new battles. Corporations, sensing profit, tried to patent our open-source designs. Sarah Kim led a legal fight, backed by a global coalition of farmers. We won, but the strain was relentless. Mia deferred MIT to run Sky Harvest, a choice that broke my heart. This is my calling, Mom, she said, and I saw my mother's fire in her eyes. The neighbors, now allies, helped expand our Chicago lots. Mrs. Carver, once our harshest critic, planted her own rooftop garden, her apology a quiet nod as she shared her first harvest. The city council made rooftop farming a permanent program, and Chicago became a blueprint for urban agriculture worldwide. David's health held, but we lived with the shadow of relapse. One night, under the rooftop's glow, he pulled me close. We did this together, he whispered. You, me, the world's eating because of us. Tears fell as I realized our tiny garden had grown beyond us, feeding millions, healing divides, proving that even the smallest seed could change everything. 5 years later, I stood on a Nairobi rooftop, watching farmers tend vertical towers under a blazing sun. Sky Harvest now fed 10 million people across 50 cities, from Mumbai's slums to London's high-rises. Mia, now 23, ran the nonprofit from Chicago, her app a lifeline for farmers worldwide. David, in remission, designed modular farms for disaster zones, his cough a distant memory. The neighbors who once mocked us now boasted about their own gardens, inspired by the movement we'd sparked. Mrs. Carver sent us photos of her basil, her smile a quiet victory. Chicago's skyline, once gray, bloomed with green, every rooftop a testament to what we'd built. The UN awarded us a humanitarian prize, but the real reward was the message smothers. Fathers, children, thanking us for food, for hope. We faced setbacks, droughts, politics, corporate greed, but our community was unbreakable. Sarah Kim became a senator, fighting for sustainable policies. Mia, now mentoring young innovators, never lost her fire. David and I, older but stronger, traveled to share our story, from rural villages to global summits. One evening, back on our Chicago rooftop, I looked at my family, David's steady hand in mine, Mia's laughter as she harvested kale. The city, once our enemy, now hummed with life. My tiny garden, born from 6 pots and a stubborn dream, had fed millions, mended hearts, and proved that even in the hardest soil, hope could grow. As the sun set, painting the towers gold, I knew we'd done more than survive, we'd changed the world.